looking it up on the
Do you want me to?
recording and. Okay, so meeting of the Personnel Board, and we are going to start at, I don't have a clock I can see really.
6:38.
Okay, it's 38, 6:38. Peg.
Okay, so let's open the meeting.
All right.
Okay. And whoops, I don't have my papers here. First of all, let's go over the, were there any changes to the minutes that George, thank you, George, for the minutes, by the way.
You're welcome.
Any change? I had just a, just a couple. First of all, A under number 1, met with the fire chief. It's not the fire department, it's the fire department.
The future, the fire department. Okay.
Yes, under
Right.
A, and then still under A, second sentence, aren't staying longer than 2 years, rather than aren't stay. At the end of the second sentence
Yep.
under A.
Yep, I got it. Aren't staying longer than 2 years. Okay.
Right. And I had a question on D under 1. Let's see, the chief is considering the benefit of creating a deputy fire chief position. Oh, my
That's
question,
not quite right.
no.
Okay. Okay.
The issue is there was a deputy fire chief job description, I believe, written in around 2014.
10.
10.
Well, we wrote it in 10. So we had a deputy fire chief for about 3 months at one point in time. So it's been on the books. And after Lenny became chief, he made the executive decision, which is his right as a strong chief, a strong fire chief, to appoint Mark Foster as the deputy fire chief.
And this
And
happened
we
before
received notice of that through an email listing the fire department positions in October.
Okay.
Did we know about this at the last meeting? No, I don't think we did.
Yes,
Yeah, we
Yes.
did.
I
Okay.
think you probably missed it being out in October.
All right. So then the chief, considering the benefit of creating a deputy, that's all done.
That's it. Yes.
The chief appointed, right?
Mhm.
Has appointed a deputy fire chief.
Okay, period. And then we will review the job description in the future.
Right.
in
Yes,
future meetings.
because it has not been reviewed since 2010.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna say we will review this job description in future meetings.
Meetings.
The chief appointed a deputy fire chief, period. We will review this job description in future meetings.
Great. And
Got it.
back to C, everybody, back to C, discuss guaranteeing a minimum number of hours of pay for responses. Was it for day and night? I'm confused on that. Did we talk about nighttime responses or day and night responses?
I don't
We
recall
were talking
differentiating.
about both.
What I
And
did,
I differentiated in my request for information. But it could, I think if you can do it for one, you can do it for any.
Right.
I mean, that's just,
Okay.
that's,
okay,
So leave it as is.
yes.
it was only in my own head that I went to the nighttime ones.
So just for my historical perspective, wasn't Lenny the deputy fire chief? No, he wasn't.
That position has been vacant except for a 3-month period.
Was he a-
Years ago.
Was he a lieutenant?
Yes, he was the
Yes.
longest serving lieutenant.
Thank you. Okay.
So he was the highest ranking officer. And the concern about the concern about the deputy fire chief is It's similar to the assistant tax collector where the statute gives the same responsibilities to the assistant tax collector as to a regular tax collector. And a deputy fire chief, if any time the fire chief isn't there, has to fulfill that role. And you know that for the fire chief, we went through a rigorous process of background check. And there, you know, to have it be such. Melissa is not coming.
Okay.
She said, sorry at work prepping for snow.
Oh,
it's-
yeah, she's in a construction company.
Yeah, she didn't make it. Yeah. She didn't
Yeah.
make it home.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Melody. Nobody's heard from Melody. I haven't. Okay.
Yeah.
Usually
And
lets us
when
know.
I- What?
Yeah, she does. Was she at the
Usually
meeting?
lets us know when she's not gonna make
Yes,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was she at the meeting last night, George?
Yes.
Didn't come?
She's been, yeah, because last time she missed finance committee, she didn't let us know.
Yeah. I
Um,
think- Yeah.
so I think sometimes things creep up at the last minute. I don't know, but
Yeah.
she's. I can.
No, I think that-
but
I think
can't
that's what it
text
is.
her.
So should we approve? I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I second that motion. All those in favor?
Arvanitis, aye.
Ross, I.
Stein, aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. April.
No,
Thank you.
well,
Yeah.
I realized we were starting to go off on something that
Yeah,
seemed
you're
really
right, you're
important.
Yeah.
That was,
That happens.
So. Are we wanting to talk about the agenda? What happened to the agenda?
should be on, it's listed.
On future business, personnel handbook policies, review and updates, classification schedules, creating the deputy fire chief position, and policy and procedures manual. Yeah.
And so it couldn't be creating that was a mistake in the agenda. Because it's already been created and there's
right,
already somebody.
Yeah, review and discuss. And there were also the legal issues and potential cost of a minimum hours of fire. Is there, that was another thing that's listed.
Say it again?
I'm looking at the agenda that's on the town website. That review legal issues and potential cost of a minimum hours of fighter response pay policy.
Right, that's what the minimum of 4 hours that we're
Yeah.
talking about. That's a way to say that.
Yes.
Right. So how are we gonna figure that out?
Well, step one, I emailed our labor council to ask if it is allowable for a town to just, okay, so just to write into their personnel policy that firefighters will receive a minimum of 4 hours pay for a response to calls.
Okay.
So I've inquired, I haven't heard back yet. But I started there. I think the issue is the police, where we get the model from, are under a union contract.
Right.
And it's one of those things that is in their contract. So the firefighters aren't union, they don't have a contract. So is it possible just to write this specific extra benefit into the handbook or not? Because it's not, everything in the handbook is supposed to apply to everyone.
Right.
Hmm.
So would that then apply to the town treasurer? A minimum number of hours when they
Well-
report to duty? I mean,
But the treasurer position is not hourly.
oh, right. That's right.
It's my understanding when I was working in business that when an employee is called into work, the state of Massachusetts actually has laws that require an employer to pay a minimum number of hours. there may already be something on the books in
if
the
you're
Commonwealth.
called in.
Well, what did you say? If you're called in?
Yeah.
Well, which is the case here. So by law, we may actually be required to pay them a minimum number of hours for response.
I think Walter would have nailed us for that one already.
I'm sure you're right.
So when you say you contacted the Labor Council, what Labor Council is this? For the state, for?
No, we in the past over time have used KP Law for legal issues. And so I have a relationship, the town has a relationship with a specific labor attorney that works for KP Law. And I, at different times, just shoot him an email with questions and he gives me answers.
Okay, but you haven't heard on this one.
No, because I just sent it about 2 hours ago.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay,
So
And he
that,
often has responded within an hour, so.
well, that's great. No, I'm just saying that I just wondered who we went to.
I tried to find it online. But George, I think George has a good lead.
What's that?
Becky says she thinks you have a good lead.
The way he's approaching it, looking for a minimum.
Making, right, if the state has that policy already, if that's a legal requirement,
Uh-huh.
then it's simple. It's already in place because all our other employees come in and they work, they're not being called in, and most of them work for more than 3 hours at a shot. Maybe some of the part-timers around town don't, but all right. So I wrote, Becky contacted the town's labor attorney regarding it. And I'm also going to note Becky is concerned that we might, this policy may we may not be able to implement it without impacting all employees in town. So something to that effect. All right.
right. So could that apply to people who are called in to plow for snow, for the highway department?
For
That's what I'm trying
instance.
to think of.
Yeah, good point.
However, they must, when they're called in to plow, they must work for a certain amount of hours. They've got the whole town to do. 45 miles of road or?
Well, that's true, generally speaking, but sometimes they get called in for something specific.
Mm-hmm.
On Montague Road, there's a little cave in and they go down there and they drop some dirt on it. And within an hour and a half, they're all back home. Steve Sullivan, who lives in town, might be able to go out and just take care of a tree fell. He goes down there and he just moves it and goes home. So, but there probably are instances when they're not needed 3 hours. But that,
Okay.
The opening to this. Let me see. I just found something, George, and it said Massachusetts law about hours and conditions of employment. If you were scheduled to work for 3 hours or more and get sent home, your employer must pay you for at least 3 hours at least minimum wage.
So could we assume that a call into a fire is that we're
Not
requiring a minimum of 3 hours?
it's not scheduled.
It's not scheduled, or
Yeah, it's not scheduled, but they were called in. But
Right.
that's different than being scheduled.
Yeah.
it's nuanced.
That's why Walter didn't nail us on it.
Haha. So we'll find out. Our town, I think we'll get good guidance.
Yeah, can't be a legal attorney. And what about the part about calculating the cost?
Okay, so for that, we could just do a simple. All right, so if it's 3 or 4 hours, we probably should pick a standard, whether you want to go with 3 or 4 minimum, or maybe do both in the cost analysis to see where they come out.
I think that's what we should do. 3
Yeah,
hours, 4 hours.
And they make nearly 20 an hour? Is it 19 something an hour?
No, it's over 20 now.
Thought it was
Okay.
21 something. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
Oh, it should. I'll be back. I'm gonna get my folder, wherever it is.
Cool. I'll let you do that. I won't dig.
So we need to find out how do we find out, figure that
Well, yeah,
out?
how do we come up with the data? I mean, if, once we have the hours, the math is easy. It's how do we find the hours? Accumulation of all hours in a 12-month period that were the gap between the 3 hours and what people actually worked when they worked less than 3.
Wasn't Lenny gonna try to come up with some of his reports for us?
Right, that's what I remember. At the very end of our last meeting, he was talking with you about getting together and some information from reports.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. So prior to that, I think we could, so they usually have at least 150 calls a year.
And Becky?
Sorry, I was eavesdropping. I'm gonna close my door so I don't do that.
Have to,
So I'm looking at the Shutesbury response and training time is $20.13 if you count inflation. You know, the
Okay.
yes,
Y23 was
Yes.
2.4%. So currently,
Yes.
yeah, it will be $20.13.
yeah, it's getting the
I'll
hours.
double
That's
check
gonna be
and
the
make
trick.
sure. So if we estimate 50 calls a year during the night, where they typically get paid for 1 hour, so we would be adding 2 or 3 hours. And if we up the people responding to 4, because I think if people get a minimum, you're gonna see a upswing in people responding.
Mhm. I
Because it
think
sure
that's
has
a-
happened
I
with
agree.
training.
I agree. Especially if it's at night and, you know, they've got to go to work the next day. We have to make it worth it. If we can afford to, but I mean, that's a hard job.
It is filled with a lot of risk.
And what, yeah, how much is budgeted right now?
Well, I mean, what's
Fine.
budgeted is, you know, I can tell you, but what's budgeted is the amount that we would anticipate based on their history. In other words, we're budgeting for what they normally do in a year, which does not include the minimum. So whatever it
Right.
is, April, we're gonna have to increase it.
Right, and how do we determine that? Because of those hours, you know, how many of those are fewer than 3 or 4 hours?
Yeah, that's the trick.
That's going to be, this
Part
will
of,
be,
part of the problem is right now, there's been a balance left in the call response number,
Hmm.
but they've gone over in the training.
Yeah, in
So
fact, that's where they are right now. This year, they're 56% spent on the training and 31% spent on response.
Yeah.
Say
So I
that,
think
George.
response, we already have a buffer in there.
Wait,
For
can
this
you,
year.
George, can you say again what you just said?
Yes, so we have 2 lines in the budget. One is training and one is response
Uh-huh.
wages, both of them. And on the training wages, we've spent so far this year 56.4%, call it 56%. On the response, and we're not even halfway through the year, so we're spending faster than what we budgeted. They could run
Okay.
out at the current pace.
And they did last year.
Okay, and we transferred at the end of the year, the FinCom. And then for the response wages, the budget is $14,500. They spent $4,004 so far, so they've only spent 31% of the
Mhm.
response budget, which is, I think, good for a number of reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So like Becky said, we could, if we implemented this policy in January or February, we would probably have enough money unless things start going really bad. And maybe tonight's storm will switch this around, but we would have a buffer to get through the end of this year as things stand.
It's just we would end up short on training and not have another line to, but there's other lines in the budget. There's
Yeah.
FinCom reserve anyway, so.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, you can talk to Lenny in April if this continues and say, hey, maybe you can cut back on training for 1 or 2 nights and just get us aligned with the budget.
And I did find that there was he sent Mark to, or at different times, they send Mark, different people go to week-long trainings. But if you send somebody to train, and that one time Walter sent somebody to the academy, and it was like $5,000
Wow.
or 6, so it really hammered the budget. So I think he needs, I need to just review the training funds
Yeah.
and balance where he's at now.
Well, it also doesn't line up with, with the police academy. When we've sent somebody to the police academy, we've asked that they reimburse that we ask a commitment of time, which
Right.
is, yeah, but we
Right,
haven't
and
been
then-
doing that.
And Walter didn't even inform, well, it's fine. He did a great job educating his people, and that's
Well,
what the goal was.
bottom line is managers need to be aware what their budget is and how they decide and the way they decide to spend it is at their discretion, as long as they live within the budget. Do I want to train everybody every week, or do I want to send one guy to a training and spend it all on that one thing? I mean, who has control over that? The fire chief. I think the conversation, Becky, you want to have with them is, are you watching this and are you aware that the training is ahead?
Yep, and I've had that conversation. It's just, you need to keep having it.
Yeah, well, he's
Because
new. I mean,
opportunities jump up and they don't, and you, at first you think, well, it's only a few days, and it's just a reminder of where they are in their budget.
Yeah.
yeah, anybody who's running ahead needs to be aware of it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So,
so we would have enough money to get through this year if we implemented the policy, but the finance committee would need to have the calculation of how much more should we bump up this line for next year.
Right.
Would you
So
agree with that, Becky?
yeah, but I think we also will need to recommend an increase in, well, we'll get Lenny to come back to talk about training and
Yes,
what he thinks is really, or that he probably,
yeah, I was confused about that because I thought that was going to happen at our last meeting. So, and George and I sort of went over that. So it would be good to talk to Lenny again, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would
Yes.
just, I'm sorry, April.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I would suggest if he's going to come, not only talk about the training, but then have the information about the response so we can have both conversations at once.
Great minds think
Good.
alike.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
It's logical.
And I don't know if he records when there's a call, how, the number of hours per call, or how
oh,
he
he
does
does.
that.
It's all tracked because that's how he figures out how to pay people.
Okay.
Right.
Excellent. We need to get our hands on that.
Oh,
Well,
yes. What?
yeah.
You've got a look on your face.
Yeah. What does that
Yeah,
mean?
what comes through payroll is fine. I just want, a lot of his reports are riddled with HIPAA stuff, so he has to be really
Oh, right.
careful what he can disseminate and what he can't. A lot of the stuff he can't.
Well,
Right.
maybe he's going to have to do the math himself and just give us the data, give us the hours without names and times and all that.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, I think it's in the payroll warrants. But he should have a folder with everything that's in the payroll warrant, so we don't have to go through, 26 payroll warrants searching for them.
All right,
So we-
whatever you find, I'm happy to do any
Yeah.
kind of legwork if you need, if it's delving into the paperwork, whatever we need to do.
So it's two-pronged. So we have to figure out the numbers on one hand, and we have to figure out if it's legal or, under labor laws. So,
Yep, and I made 2 bullet points of those.
all right.
Good, thank you.
These great minds. Yes. So the deputy chief, yeah.
So we will be meeting hopefully with Lenny at our next meeting. You think, Becky, do you think that'll work?
What's
January,
the date?
pardon?
What's the date again?
I think it's January 19th, if it's
Yeah,
the
so we haven't scheduled any of them. That's why they weren't in the minutes. We need to talk about that at the end. But I was thinking the subsequent meeting so that we could go over it in our next meeting. Go over the information and see if we still want to pursue this
Mhm.
and then have him come out in February.
That's a good idea. We need to know if we can do it.
Yeah,
But we
who
can
knows what we're gonna
still-
be thinking after we see the information we get.
We can still ask Lenny for copies of his response hour files, response and training.
Yeah, and ask him for it, well in advance of our January meeting so we can have that data. And hopefully one of us, Becky, can crunch the numbers and, and I'm happy to do that.
I
have
was
no
gonna
problem.
say, I think I know who we would ask to do that.
Well, Becky could do it. I don't, depending on how he gives her the data, he might just give her the hours and she can just, math. But if it's a lot of information that has to be added up on a spreadsheet, then I'll do that.
Thank you. Appreciated, very much appreciated.
No problem. I'm trying to keep my spreadsheet skills alive. And, that's what I did for a living.
Yeah, me too.
Seriously, I used to live in them every day, all the time. And now I don't. So I kind of want to,
Okay.
I know what you
we'll-
mean.
Want to dabble?
Yeah, we'll remember you said that, George.
I'm writing up treatment plans every day, just. I need that.
It's just terrible
No,
that
no.
everyone needs one.
Yes, yeah.
They're before my time, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
All right, so I need to
moving
ask
on.
Lenny that,
Okay,
and I need to get response from labor.
Hmm.
Okay,
all right, thank you. So are we ready to move on? We have the fire chief, deputy fire chief.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have this one, the job description. Do we want to start working on that?
yeah,
Okay, and, shall we do that, start on that tonight or go through it tonight? I haven't had a chance to read through it. So I've had a busy couple of, has anybody else had a chance to read through this?
I have skimmed through it.
Yeah, I did too. I read through it. I would say skim through it because it's tough to
Well,
read it.
yeah. When you skim through it, I sort of skimmed through it too, but I didn't go through it word for word. Becky, is there anything, first of all, that stands out to you that since the update in 2010?
I think, there were significant changes made to Walter, but a lot of that was very specific task oriented and skill oriented. I think it would be really important to compare this to the fire chiefs and see
yeah.
where it's the same and where it's different. Because, it starts off saying, second sentence, well, first sentence, responsible for administrative duties as assigned by chief. Cool, that's fine. Acts as chief in the absence of the chief. So for him to act as chief, he would have all the same responsibilities as the chief.
Right.
Are you saying that should be stated in this?
Well, it already acts as chief in the app. Do we need to say? Yeah, I do.
I think that has to be in there, no?
Well,
Yeah.
one thing I thought about when I read that line was if anybody who's attended and been trained in emergency management whatever it is, whoever gets to the scene, who is the highest ranking person, becomes the, what's the term, Becky? I had it in my
Incident
head.
commander.
Yeah, right. And so, he is that, somebody's in that position till he shows up, unless the chief is there. And then he's in that position till the chief shows up.
Right.
By definition, every firefighter can act, what's the term again, Becky?
Incident commander.
Incident commander. Okay, yeah. So, and then there's another term in terms of who's got rank. And, well, anyways, so that's kind of inherent in all the fire department personnel's job.
But this is different. I mean, like typically they usually show up together. I mean, the protocol is everyone goes to the station and leaves from there. So even if it's two people, they typically will leave together. So like when Walter wasn't around and Lenny got there, he would be, in charge until Walter got there. So I think this goes farther because chief duties aren't just on scene. They are, it's a particular, the chief represents the community in many other
If there's an
situations.
issue when there's not an incident.
Right.
You're saying. Got it.
So, I think that there's two really important things to me, and maybe the job description doesn't fully, the one thing I think the job description does address, I think we need to make sure it's in alignment with the fire chief's job description. That. And then secondly, when that, I guess when the fire chief appoints somebody as a strong chief to be deputy chief, do we need to make sure that hire includes the same process as the fire chief or not? Because the roles will be the same.
Would this be something to talk to our legal advice people? We require background checks for the chief. Does that imply that we have to for the deputy chief?
Yeah, and there's all the firefighters supposedly get, some sort of background check. It's
like a
just
Corey?
when it's a chief, our history, especially in the last 10 years, has to really do a thorough investigation.
It's more than a Corey check.
Yeah, it's more than a Corey check. It's some, and we had outside people doing it. Kristen did take a course in background checks. So when she did Lenny's following the protocols, and it was very similar in scope as we had done for her. And it was just, because it saves us a few $1,000s to keep it in-house. So I think everybody was happy to have that alternative, but it could be done either way. And the question just is, do you need to do that with this type of position? I think it's, when it's the lieutenant became the acting chief, it was different because then we had, how was it different? See, this is where I think we need some outside support and help thinking it through. I think you're right, April.
Okay.
But do you guys see what I'm saying? What the concern is that, we could wake up tomorrow and we could have somebody who's our new fire chief without even having,
If the deputies moved into that position.
yeah. if something happened to your current chief, it would just happen automatically without any action of the select board or anything. And the action and like for the police chief, when we lost our police chief, it was the select board that made the appointment of the officer in charge. Nothing was automatic. And so you had that scrutiny and that vote that April participated in, voted against for good cause, but it's, there was a process. And with this situation where Lenny just has already appointed the person, we don't have that process.
So,
And maybe we don't need it.
but it brings back that, that we've assumed the strong chief, and maybe that was assumption we didn't look at enough, in terms of, going
And
forward,
maybe-
because
And maybe when we didn't have a deputy fire chief, it didn't matter.
right.
I'm uncertain.
Well, certainly that's something we need to consider, and we need to see if there's a risk there.
I have to plug in my computer. I'll be right back.
Okay,
Go ahead.
go plug it.
Okay, gonna get my cord.
I did email Melody, asked her if she was coming, but I didn't hear back. She's probably busy.
So it looks like Peg has an elf on the shelf.
Oh,
I think he's chubbier than the ones I've seen.
I think so too.
She
Oh, look
must
at
feed him
that.
well.
So this is complicated, what we're trying to wade through here.
Well, it just, when, yeah. And
You
it
don't wanna
might not
fall-
be an issue, but I think we have to think it through.
Yeah.
we don't want to step into any traps.
No. So did we make a mistake in going ahead and continuing with the strong chief? I mean, that had been,
Well, once you vote it, you don't have a choice.
yeah, it's done.
It's done.
It's done, but
And it was done 30 years ago or something.
right, and we didn't take the opportunity to rethink that. We don't have
Yeah,
a strong police chief. So
I don't
it's
think we
a little
can, April. I think once you,
No,
I
we
mean,
can't.
the town meeting voted it. So you would have to
Okay.
go through a process. I guess we could rescind it. But
Would-
you
Yeah,
can't
it
just do
doesn't
it.
Sounds like it would take a warrant article.
Yeah, doesn't
Yeah.
sound like it's worth
Yeah,
it.
it's a town meeting vote. And then, so there's the timing of a town meeting to consider. So it's not something the select board can just say, oh, sorry, you're not going to be a strong chief. You're just a
Right.
regular.
Whatever that is. Okay. Okay, so then we just
And-
really have to be careful.
And we have really fostered our strong chiefs to be very communicative with the select board. So that even though they're a strong chief, the select board is involved and knows what's happening in the department.
Right.
Because that's part of the, you hear in a number of communities where the chiefs often, not often, but sometimes are there's a divide between the select board and the chiefs. They don't have a working relationship and they don't know what each other are doing. And it's really important there is, through policies and everything else, you want to make sure they're aligned. So you don't have safety departments taking actions that are against what the select board would like to
Right.
be seen.
And so in this case, we need to have the question answered whether or not things like a background check is something that we can require or should require for the deputy, given that the deputy could automatically become the chief.
Yep.
And we haven't set a salary. I mean, the job description gives a salary range.
This one is silent on that. And then we have The
Right.
other unusual aspect of the person in the position is a volunteer.
Oh,
He's not
right.
getting paid to do this.
I'm sorry?
He's not getting paid to do this.
Well, he originated with the department. He came on board stating he wanted to be a volunteer. And then a job description called the engineer was created for the position.
Yeah.
And then just a few years ago, Walter started paying the volunteer for training. And so things have evolved without the, the personnel board review and stuff. Things have evolved. And so we just have to catch up and make sure things are equitable. Having, and if you're going to have a volunteer, how do you make sure that you're covering all, that the person is insured, and I do that by the numbers with the insurance, but you have to make sure that they have all the same protections as a regular employee.
Wow.
Well,
So
it's a
right
good
now,
thing.
our deputy fire chief is a volunteer
He's not getting paid.
at all. No benefits, nothing. Bupkis.
Correct. Except for when he gets paid payroll for training hours,
But not for response.
not for response.
Not for anything other than training.
Correct. And it never used to be training. That was more recent in the last couple of years, 2 or 3
That's
years.
really odd. Well, I don't understand that. Why?
I don't either.
Why can he get paid for training, but he can't get paid for response?
I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, it's just
I think
weird.
it's because he's supposed to be more,
What?
Or what?
More-
I'm starting to feel like this is,
Okay, this is,
we
This is
need
for-
to step back and not talk about the individual.
right.
This is for
That's
that
right.
person's personal reasons, for
That's
his,
right.
Yeah, and I don't want to make any assumptions, and I don't want to make any statements that I don't know.
Right. And this could be
So
like
I
more,
think it's just an unusual situation. And we just need to make sure that there's equity between the work that person is doing and a regular employee. So, because
okay,
as long, and part of it is, as long as he's getting paid for training, he is an employee.
right. So it's sort of it's an odd situation that, again, maybe our labor council should look at this, because are we, I don't know.
I think that's 100% true. I think we describe the situation to the Labor Council and say, what are the risks of doing this?
Right,
And, and what other information, should we be aware of? Because there's all kinds of implications between the insurances, workers' comp, injury, and,
Mhm.
Labor laws
right.
and everything that pertains to that. I agree, April.
Yeah, it's a gray zone. No matter who the individual is, I mean, we don't have this situation in any other town department.
Oh.
We don't-
Becky, did you write that down to talk to the labor people about just now when you were writing? Were you writing that down? Becky? Is she frozen?
Did you freeze?
She's frozen.
She's frozen.
It looked
Yeah,
like
she's
she
not
was.
even on I can't even see her on the screen. She's gone. Poof.
Oh, come back.
It looked like she was writing stuff down. I just wanted to make sure
Did.
she got that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's MIA. Now, the funny thing is, she's the one who opened this meeting, so how does that work?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's see if she can join. Well, April, the other thing I would say about what you just said, April, you're hosting.
Oh,
It would also be good for us to hear what they say, not just about this person, but when we have other people who volunteer in
Right.
our town.
Yeah.
And
Right.
maybe,
any-
I'd like to know.
right. Like if we had somebody in the highway department who was volunteering.
Yeah.
you know, That would
And
be.
maybe
it's-
somebody who volunteers, but we pay them to do something else
they wanna get
sometimes.
in. Nobody's trying to get in, are they?
Yeah, she's probably got to reboot her PC or something like that.
Just shake up the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
She needed to plug in. That's what I did. I looked up and I thought, oh my gosh, it says ready to leave. I mean, maybe she's.
invite.
So while we wait for Becky to come back, what are we going to wait on the deputy fire chief job description? And because we talked about needing it needs to be in alignment with the fire chief job description. Do we do that?
I'm
But
good with that.
It's just funny. Yeah, it's odd because now we have a volunteer working at a pretty high level, position with a 12-year-old job description. And it's unusual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unusual. We can get the answer from labor attorney regarding
Yeah.
the issues associated with having a volunteer in this position, but we still need to make this position description not 12 years old.
Right.
So we can work on that tonight, or Peg, if you want to do it in the next meeting because you want to be able to prepare better, that's up to you.
I went over it very quickly. Do you guys feel, I mean, I could go over it, wherever you feel that needs attention. Nothing stood out to me because it just seemed, I didn't feel like it was foreign to me,
Right.
but nothing stood out. Here's Becky. She's back, I think. Anyway, how do you two feel about it?
Oh, there's Rebecca Torres.
I'm
There you
okay,
are.
I'm okay with, I'll go either. I'm prepared to go over this if you want to go over it now,
Okay,
but I'm
then
also okay with waiting.
Well, at least we can look at it because I think looking at it in the context of the chief's job description makes sense as well, or to
Right.
we have to refer to it.
It might be helpful to refer to it, but we could probably work on this and then just do the comparison, because trying to work on it and then while comparing it to the fire chief, I don't know. I guess that we could do that. I don't know. I mean,
It may be reinventing let's see, 52510.
And-
I think if, oh, there's Becky.
Hi, guys. Sorry, my computer crashed.
Oh, well, the question I was asking you when it crashed was, were you writing down the last thing we were talking about, which was you were writing down, I think, something to ask the lawyer, legal. You were
Yeah,
writing.
I'm sorry. I gotta just text the police chief and then I'll be right there. Sorry.
Okay.
was there an accident in town today or this morning?
I think so. Yeah.
I could, around 8 o'clock, there were sirens going off, and then a big tow truck went by my house.
Wow.
I
Have they
think
looked at it?
cars flipped over down on Montague Road.
Really?
A car flipped on Montague? You sure it wasn't the S's?
It was the S-curves.
Yeah, because
I was gonna say, Mike and I both
Yeah.
drove down at different times and didn't see anything in the morning.
no, and I saw Mark Foster. He drives. Yeah, he was heading towards town at that time with his lights on. Okay, so we decided that we'd at least how about if we at least take a cursory look at the job
Okay,
description?
That
Maybe,
sounds good, and I'll follow along. See, I don't think I made any marks on this. That's what I was looking at.
no, nor have I.
Well, it's a PDF, so you gotta print it if you want to.
Yeah,
No, the first thing I noticed about this was it's Walter's style, which is very detailed. It's the same
Yes.
conversation, right? We had the same conversation before. It's what prompted that whole conversation about procedures manual, because, there's a little too much detail, I think. And sometimes that makes it inflexible, because sometimes as time changes, do we have to add everything that could change between now and the next 12 years?
So, for example, on what you're saying, down under examples of geez, something just fell. Under examples of essential duties and responsibilities, down under response on the bottom of the first page, response to fire alarms. And then it goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling. You're
Wait,
right.
what page is that, Peg?
on the
Bottom
first
of
page.
One.
The last
Oh,
bullet
yeah,
item
yeah.
on page 1.
Response to fire alarms, and then it goes it saws, axes, ropes, and other equipment. I'm not a firefighter, so I don't know how important all that is to have that in the job description. But I agree with George that it might be too much. On the other hand, maybe not. Maybe it needs to be in there.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, and when I look at this, it looks to me like it's able to operate all apparatus at the fire department. I mean, to me, the last 3 sentences or the last sentence just runs on. No, it's the last bunch of sentences. You could just condense it into, needs to be able to operate all apparatus, all fire apparatus owned by the town or something. But
All necessary fire apparatus for.
Yeah.
All necessary.
But anyways, I'm jumping ahead. I was just making the
For
bigger point that it looks to me like it's too detailed, and we could definitely condense this job description.
Yeah. Is this what the firefighter job description, clean hose, rolls hose, reloads hose, public relations, assistant drills.
Where are you now?
Oh, I was looking at page 2, but it just seems that detail just continues.
Yeah.
Plans attack, assumes, assist in investigation.
So, and
Well, why don't we go back to the beginning and we'll just go through it. But I just wanted to mention that in the beginning, only to, it's kind of our theme for this, if you will, or, what our policy is, how detailed we want these to be.
Right. Well, okay, there it is.
so, for example, do any of us know about the third bullet on page 1? Under examples of essential duties and responsibilities, do any of us know that there's a the deputy fire chief coordinates fire prevention program? Do we know about that?
Nope.
To some extent, we need to talk to the chief about specific responsibilities for this position. Right? I mean, this position didn't exist last year, so who was doing that last year? Is it in somebody else's job description?
Right.
And these are only examples. I mean, why are they even here?
No, they've only had a deputy chief. And it was Mr. Emerson. Fire chief, he's also a firefighter in Orange now, but he had been a chief and he had a lot of experience.
And that was a while ago.
Yep. Thank you. Sorry, I gave her the wrong number. Yeah, so I guess part of it is why do we have when do you have a deputy chief and when don't you? I guess it's probably always a good idea.
Mhm.
Basically identifying your second in command and giving them the authority to do a lot of things that the chief does. Having that position is so that you have somebody who can run the department in the absence of the chief.
Yes.
Which is what the first sentence says, right? First two sentences, acts as chief in absence of chief.
In the third bullet, do we know if that happens, coordinates fire inspection and code enforcement? I mean, do we need to list all this if he acts as the chief in the absence of the chief? Does the chief does all this too, correct? All of these bullets that are going down,
Mhm.
or is it the chief doesn't do any of that and just the
But if
deputy?
you recall, I think our fire chief job description is closer to 5 pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, we never did narrow that one down, did we?
Some.
Well, done on page 2, under supervisory responsibilities. Assistant, so he supervises the assistant chief? Is there an assistant chief?
No. But if there was one, that's the chain of command.
Okay,
Deputy,
See,
the full chief, the deputy, and then the assistant.
this whole section just makes me laugh. These are examples of what he does. This is more than just examples. This looks to me like the specific duties, right?
Yeah,
are you still on, yeah, essential duties and responsibilities?
Yeah,
So-
page 1 and all of page 2 is
Yeah, all of page 2.
down
So
to
how
those
is this-
supervisory responsibilities. Is the
is
job
it a
description.
responsibility to use forcible entry and ventilate structure? I mean, those are techniques that you use to achieve the responsibilities, aren't they?
Yes.
Mhm.
Again, too much detail.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how this looks next to a firefighter job description. You know,
And next to the fire chiefs.
yeah.
Okay, so my mission is to send out the latest fire chief plus firefighter job description,
I
right?
think so.
Okay,
Yeah, I think, why don't you do that, Becky? And that's our homework, right? We all compare. But I'm just, and that sounds great. I totally agree with that. Let's try and get a consistent format. Should we discuss what we think a good format is before
Hmm.
in this meeting right now? I don't know.
physical demands.
Or should we all just go ahead and make our changes and then compare what we did? I'm just afraid if we do that, we're all going to be far off from each other and we're just going to spend
Yeah.
a lot of time trying to align ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, we need, I mean, the layout,
The format and the layout are supposed to have the same categories for all job descriptions, not just one department, but all of them.
right. So we have a, under other descriptions, we have examples of essential duties and responsibilities, supervisory responsibilities, education, experience, and license requirements. We
Yep.
have that for every
In
single.
every
Yeah.
job description, yep.
Okay, right.
Every job description has this examples of essential duties. Not essential duties and responsibilities, but examples of.
No, it doesn't have examples of. You're right.
No, there'd be a way to
That's-
collapse that. You know,
That's where it expanded out by thrusting
Right.
it into the.
So,
Yeah, because why would you, if you're, it should just have, because acts as chief is not an example.
yeah,
right.
right.
So I don't think the other things do have examples. I think that is,
But they have something else like duties and responsibilities?
Essential duties and responsibilities,
So,
not examples.
all right, so one thing we all agree on then is we need to drop the first two words in that paragraph, but this paragraph, this section still needs to remain.
Yes.
Yeah, but it needs to be tightened up and reflective of the fire chief's job
Yes,
description.
understood. Yep. And we might
Right.
need feedback from the fire chief on that.
Yep,
You know, so maybe we do a draft and then we bring it to him and say, we would just like you to look at the essential duties, well, the whole thing, but specifically essential duties. Is there anything to add? Is there anything that should be subtracted?
yep. And then we can do, yeah. Have him read through it. Yeah, because this,
So do you think, you can contact him, Becky, and have him, I think our next meeting's January 19th.
yeah,
That's when it would be.
Okay,
yeah, he's gonna come to a meeting next week, so I could have it ready for him.
okay.
If we have anything to give him, well, we won't have it ready for next week, right?
Well,
No.
I don't know. I mean, really, what do we see that really needs to be changed? The word examples of can be subtracted. What do we think of the first paragraph? I mean, I didn't see anything
Summary?
there that I thought we needed to change.
No,
The first do you mean the position summary or the paragraph
Yes.
under essential
Yes.
duties?
no.
Position summary,
I think
What do you-
that's fine.
That's fine.
that's fine. And as far as we know, essential duties and responsibilities are what we know at this point. The chief can modify this section.
And maybe I should try to find, I will, if I can, I'll see if it's possible to find the December 1999 version.
Oh.
I mean,
Because I
And I
have a feeling this
Wow,
probably went through the same mutation as the fire chief's job description over time.
yeah,
Right.
and when I look at page 2, same thing. What does he think? I mean, I don't see anything for us to change. And so I think he should just look at this and just tell us, how does the new deputy position align with this? How do they compare? And I think the chief should make the modifications, because I'm looking at it, I don't know that.
I
that
don't,
we can
yeah,
change here.
I agree. I feel
it-
like I'm a watcher. I'm a third party, fourth party, fifth party. There's a
So
lot.
I guess part of the problem for me is, okay, if we take away examples of essential duties, we also have to edit that paragraph
Yes,
because we don't want illustrations.
Right. No, you're right. I agree.
yeah, and it gets into, cleans hose, rolls and reloads hoses. I mean, it really gets into minutia.
Yes.
There's got to be
So-
a way of consolidating that.
It could be response to fire alarms. That's one of the bullets, the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth bullet. We don't need to have all that about raises and climbs, ladders, may use bars, hooks,
Right.
axes, saws. Essentially, that's what happens when you respond to a fire alarm.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Performance-
And plans attack and assumes command until fire chief arrives on scene.
Right.
But you
And
could probably
performs-
have you could probably have a bullet that says performs duties of other positions when needed, or, sometimes he is going to jump in and help roll up the hoses. It's not his
Right.
primary responsibility, but if there's not enough guys to do it,
But it's listed right here, cleans hose, rolls and reloads hose. Everybody's responsible to do that, but I don't recall that
Right.
listed in the chief's job description, although I know he
No.
does it.
well,
No,
but leaving this here implies that he's responsible to do it.
Right.
Right.
But I
don't-
think everyone is,
All right.
because it's a working chief,
Right.
Okay.
just like the police department, our police chief responds to calls on a regular basis. She's not an administrative chief sitting in the office, working
Right.
on schedules for 50 employees.
But the detail, like the removes persons from danger may use stretchers as required. I mean, I can't see why this can't be collapsed into something more streamlined.
You know, not only for the point that you made about condensing this, but also because there might be other things and they're not listed here. And by having something broader on the description, they're covered. Apparatus changes, situations change. We can't account for everything in here. If we miss something, it would be good to have a broader description that would capture that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I want to go back to what Becky said about essential duties and responsibilities, the paragraph. Can we modify that right here, right now?
Where are you on? Where's
Oh,
page?
the second
Page one.
paragraph.
Page 1, the second section, examples of essential duties and responsibilities. We decided we're going to drop examples of from the title,
Yes,
which
right.
means the wording of the paragraph is not necessarily accurate before the bullet items. So
Right.
instead of the duties listed below are intended only as illustration, the duties below are the essential duties
Mhm.
of the various types of work that may be performed. Yes.
So
So
acts as chief.
examples of is in the old fire chief's job description from 2007. Examples of essential duties and responsibilities. But there's only one paragraph and it's only 2 sentences.
Hmm.
And then it goes on to administrative. So all examples of essential duties is originally in his job description said, the duties listed below are intended only as illustration of the various types of work that may be performed. The omission of specific statements of duties does not exclude them. So that sentence is also in this one, but then it lists administrative / operations. And it's more simplified than what is in the deputy fire chief.
By a lot.
So it kind of makes sense. It's not as much detail. It's
Well, you also said the next section after that was administrative, which is really what the fire chief is a bigger portion of the fire chief's job anyways. Is that like a listing of the fire chief's duties?
yeah, it says drafts fire services policies, recommends policy to the select board, implements department policy. That's the first bullet. Second bullet directs the operations of the fire department, maintenance of records. It's all very logical and concise.
So that's
Conducts
really,
regular inspections of personnel and equipment. Meets with firefighting personnel to review and evaluate performance, provide feedback and supervision. Prepares annual departmental budget. Directs and controls expenditures, ensures prompt and proper completion of required paperwork, prepares and administers grants.
So this is the current fire chief's description you're reading from.
No, I'm
correct?
reading the
What do you-
one before it got, this is the one from 2007. The
Okay.
new one we have
It's a
is the
little-
5-pager.
Right.
but the point is, it does list the job description.
Right.
And that's what this essential duties section does for the deputy. I believe.
I'm sorry.
So what you just read, all those things you read were really a job description. Those are the different
Yeah.
responsibilities of position. In this deputy's position, job description, the essential duties and responsibilities section has the job description. The detailed job description, similar to what the administrative section for the fire chief had. The way the administrative section of the fire chief had. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
What I'm saying is, you just read the administrative duties that the fire chief is responsible for. That's pretty much the job description, the detailed jobs that he has to do, right?
Right.
And I'm saying for this deputy position, the essential duties and responsibilities is where we're putting the tasks and responsibilities of the job. We don't have an administrative section. This is not necessarily an administrative position, although it can be.
Well, see, that's the issue that I was trying to raise is the deputy, because the fact that deputy can become the chief in his absence, he has all the same responsibilities.
Right.
He
Which
should
is the very
have-
first item. Yeah,
It says that, but if you compare the two job descriptions, there's two sections, but there's an administrative section, then there's an activities operations section, and neither of those sections are in this job description. They don't line up.
And they should.
And I think they should. I could be wrong, but maybe we need to look at examples from other towns. But if those become his responsibilities, I mean, and at other times he needs to, there's nothing about rolling up the hose in the chief's job description.
Right.
well,
It's assumed.
yeah, and it can be covered by a much broader statement because
Or
there's a
that-
lot of little details.
Or that you rescue somebody on and may need to use a stretcher. I mean,
That's not in the,
that's,
it might be in the new version though. Let me check.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's way too much detail in my
Way
mind.
too much detail. We tried. Things, plans attack and assumes command until fire chief arrives. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
But why put removes persons from danger? I think that's assumed. I hope.
That's the job.
If it-
Well, and the thing, cleans hose, rolls and reloads hose. There's a lot that I agree.
The current job description for the chief does look better than I remember.
All right, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, because we did move, I mean, we have necessary knowledge, we have 8 bullets. Education, we have 7 bullets. And skills and abilities, we used to have 20 and now there's only 5. So I think we did trim that back. We did tighten it up. Are you guys looking at the, hopefully this one says August 2022, the very latest.
Oh, you need me to find mine?
Yeah. So I don't think we had under, that has ability to react quickly and calmly in an emergency as skills. This just gets into minutia, I think.
Mhm.
It's assumed.
I
So
think
could we?
cover a lot of things with broad statements, and
Right.
yeah,
So the question is, I guess the assumption is the deputy, we only have one full-time person. There's no assumption that the deputy position is full-time.
Right.
Stipend plus hourly on-call rate is what the job description says, but we don't do stipends anymore.
Where does it say that? I don't see that.
the very top of page 1.
Where is
Oh,
it?
okay.
There it is.
So I think we got to make a couple decisions before we hack it into pieces. I know, George, you were saying that we should go to Lenny first, but I think
Maybe we can
think we
offer
need to-
guidance.
we need to give him a reasonable start.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Yeah, your points are valid. I agree. I don't have the chief description, so
Oh, you don't?
maybe I got in an old email. I'd have to go digging. Let me see. Maybe
I think I may have it. I'm looking. Highway
Let me
super.
see if I can find it.
I don't.
I have it.
August 22nd?
is that
Last
when you sent it
Monday?
to us? All right.
August 20. It's
I have one on the 18th, but no, that's an old one. No.
No, I'm talking about 2022.
Yeah,
August.
that's when we
It's the one that Melissa put reformatted. So it's really neat. Look, and it's
Oh, I
very,
remember that.
and it's the only job description with a logo on it.
It'd be great if somebody could just, oh, fire chief job description. I got this on July 28th, so it's probably an old version of it.
Yeah, I have something on August 4th.
Yeah, this is an old one that I'm looking at.
I'm just looking at one that I printed out.
That's a good idea. Oh, for tonight, I have, oh, wait.
This is August 2022.
Oh, so you have, when did you get that one?
I have no idea.
Just sent it out. Cause she read through, I mean, she reformatted our last version.
Yeah, I know she did that. That's not it.
Becky, can you just email it to it? Can you email it to us now?
I'm searching.
It might be easier. All the stuff on this computer.
Or I was needing help finding it too. I probably have it right in my personnel folder, but okay, back to August. Employee handbook. Maybe she didn't send it.
Yeah, we could certainly use Melissa tonight. Be helpful if she was here tonight.
Right, she has a memory.
Yeah.
She's
Sorry.
really good at that stuff. She'd get it to us real
Yes.
quick.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so I have August 4th, but you said that was the old one, April?
I think so. Let me try that again. Fire chief.
Yeah, it has, that's the one that had all the red in it.
Yeah, that's the one I found. That's not it. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the one I have is July 8th. It's July 4th
Well,
email.
it's actually, you know
Oh,
what?
here we go.
It's it without the logo. It says stuff dated August 2022. Oh, not only the stuff in red is not in the final version that I have.
I have the
Yeah,
logo. I have the one I printed out has the logo on it.
Peg, did you find that in an email? Could you send that to us?
I didn't find, if I found it in an email and I printed it out, then I eliminated the email. Sorry.
I thought all this stuff I read about the EMD, we decided not to include.
That's right.
Right, so we don't want this one.
Yeah, so this,
No.
yeah, that's because I have that.
That was
too.
one of our drafts. Yeah, I've got that.
That was built on the very close to the 2018 draft.
So it looks like we may never have received the final.
Well, I have a printout of it, so I must have.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages.
No, mine is 4 pages.
Okay, so mine is not the final one then, because it does have emergency management director.
Well, this one does too, on page 2, but it doesn't have, mine has a logo in the left corner.
Mine does too.
Weird.
Oh, mine, there's 3. I found one. With the logo.
How many pages?
It is 4.
That's matches mine. Where did you find it?
Where did I find it? It's under, I've put in fire chief job description. It's an email from Melissa, August 4th. And there's 2 from August 4th. One says 2018 job description, and then there's one that just says, hey, I have this wild idea. I can forward this to you.
Please do. Please do, because in my personnel folder, I don't have that email.
Wait a minute, what are your MG Arvin? Wait a minute, is that you?
Yes. MG,
Okay.
M.G.
Okay.
Marty.George.
Oh, okay.
George, do you have two emails? Because I was looking back through and did you at one point have two emails?
I used to have a Verizon.net. I still do, but I try not to use it
Okay.
Okay,
back when I was on DSL.
Mhm.
okay. I just sent it to you guys.
Thank you.
Let's see if you get. it.
Thank you. Because
Is
I
that the
don't
one?
even see, I don't have a second email from that date.
Yeah, this was a second, yeah. So it has a little logo.
What
Got
do
it.
we think? Did you get it?
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
So what
this is cleaned up, yeah.
it is almost 8.
Now that, are you gonna let us go home now?
Well, this is interesting.
I feel like I'm sort of floating on all this stuff.
Yes,
George, what did you discover?
Nothing. I saw this administrative section and went to supervisory responsibilities. Ours has examples of, and then goes to supervisory responsibilities, but I see activities and operations. That's really where the meat is, right? For what the
Yeah.
job requirements are.
Yeah,
So it seems to me we could relabel the essential duties to activity/operations, get rid of the paragraph. Don't really need it, although we did edit it to something that we like. And then the only thing we need to talk about is how to condense some of those activities in there from 4 or 5 activities to one, or one description. But if you want to break up now, I'm not going to argue.
Well, I'm trying to, no, I'm happy to do it, but I feel like I'm floating right now. That sounds weird, doesn't it?
Well, I think we're closer than we think we are.
yeah,
Because-
I think we got a very solid job description to work from. We just gotta decide what the differences are between the deputy job description and the chief, but I think the chief one that's finally in hand is
Yeah,
workable.
but before we hand it off to them, there are some edits we can make. Like,
Okay,
right, like relabeling examples of essential duties and responsibilities.
Where
And
is
here's
that?
what's under the chiefs, which is, I lost it.
I don't know.
Operations, what was it called?
Activities, operations.
Yeah, so what
Yes.
do you think? What do you think of that? Just rename examples of essential to activities and operations.
I'm not sure I'm getting what you're saying we should do then. Say that again.
Well, we on page 1, you got position summary, and then you got examples of essential duties.
Right.
And I'm wondering if we should change that title to be not
Activity.
examples of essential duties, but activities and operations.
Yeah, it's done, then it lines up. And the administrative on the fire chiefs, I don't think that is applicable. Or
I
Right,
think,
it's-
or maybe.
it-
The fire chief is an administrative position. This is not. There are some administrative duties which we can include unless we want to break it into 2 sections and pull those things out.
but part of like under administrative is hires, fires, trains,
Right.
manages all personnel. And this person will have the right to do that.
When the chief is out, but that, you know,
The chief is
they'll have
out,
the right to
or
do that.
like if he's out for a month, or if he's out for an illness for 2 weeks. So, but if he doesn't, if we want to make sure he doesn't have that authority, we have to figure that out and justify it.
Well, and we could have a sentence, depending on which way we go, if we decide that she would have this responsibility of administering the department in a long-term absence, we can make a bullet. Responsible for chief's administrative duties when chief is on, this is bad wording, but when chief is on long-term absence, extended
How
absence.
about when chief is unavailable? Or long-term?
No, you have, the long term, I think is important.
Okay.
Yeah, because if he's unavailable, well, we're gonna wait a day before we fire that guy,
Yeah,
as
right,
opposed to,
right.
we need somebody to run the department while the chief is away.
But then are we running into the strong chief issue? Like if the chief is going to be out for X number of days, then the chief can hand off these administrative duties.
Active
With-
perform
is that-
administrative tasks
is-
is assigned by chief, bullet number 2.
I don't have both of these up at the same time.
There's a way
Yes.
to do that, you know, but I probably don't want to get into it because it'll get confusing.
Yeah. Mm.
So, I mean, I have no problem doing what I suggested. I think it's simple. That's why I like it. Activities, operations, duties is below, whatever wording we change that to, if anybody caught that.
No, that part, I think that's fine. I guess how do you characterize the administrative duties? Because this wouldn't, like if the chief is gone for a weekend, you would not assume that the deputy could do this.
Well, actually, I think the wording we have is fine. Bullet 2, performs administrative tasks as assigned by chief. I'm going away for the weekend.
Uh,
I need somebody to make this filing. I'm assigning this to you. I'm on leave for a month. I'm assigning my administrative tasks to you. So in other words, unless the chief's incapacitated, that's the only thing we're not accounting for in that sentence.
So you'd probably, if the chief's gone for a month, you'd want the deputy to take care of the billing and the payroll. But you probably wouldn't want him to make hiring and firing decisions.
right.
In your absence, you'd want to be involved in something of that sort.
Which is again why bullet 2 is really good, because I'm not going to assign you hiring and firing duties, but I'm going to tell you that you need to process bills.
Yes. I see what you're saying. Yes, that makes sense.
But the only thing it doesn't cover is if the chief is incapacitated. You know, if he gets injured on the site and he's unable to assign any tasks to the deputy. Now, what's the deputy's responsibility?
Right. Because the deputy fire chief first line is responsible for administrative duties as assigned by the chief.
Right.
So if he can't assign them, does he have 0 or what?
So here's a thought.
Well, see, the second sentence contradicts it. I'm sorry, George.
No, that's okay.
Absence of chief is the second sentence, and that has a different meaning than the first sentence.
Yeah, good point. The way I interpret the first sentence is what I said earlier about the incident commander. Access chief during incidences, during responses, in the absence of a chief. So we could qualify that to exclude the administrative piece.
So
And
responsible for response duties.
Access chief.
The first sentence, if that says responsible for incident response duties.
Access chief at response sites, right?
Oh, I
During
see.
responses. I'm not sure the wording, but specifically acts as the chief when there's an incident, as opposed to is able to do everything the chief can do as a chief, you know, the administrative stuff.
So acts as chief during incidents in the absence of the chief.
Yes, basically
Well,
is the
during
incident commander.
During fire incidents or,
Any calls,
okay,
acts as chief at a call in response in the absence of a chief. And then the second one, the administrative tasks, what I would suggest, how does that sound, Becky?
Yeah,
Sounds great. The first one's good.
And then
So-
performs administrative tasks as assigned by the chief or the select board. So if the chief is incapacitated, the select board can say, what's his
Yeah.
name, Mark? We're assigning you
whoever it
all
is.
administrative tasks until he returns. until
Does
Lenny
that-
returns.
Does that conflict at all with the strong chief notion?
I
'Cause I'm not
think,
sure.
I think if we say as assigned by the chief and in his absence by the select board, or in his
Yes.
incapacitation by the
Yeah.
select.
And if the chief is unable, yes,
Yeah. I wouldn't use
incapacitated.
incapacitated. I'd say unable. I like
Unable.
that much better.
Yeah, if chief is unable, it would be the select board, yes.
If the chief is unable to assign the task, the select board, you know, any of those
Yes.
wordings, but just have it that way. So we have a way to assign the duties if the chief can't.
Right, and we did, then we, yes, yes. Coordinates fire prevention program coordinates fire, so this is where it gets funny, because the fire chief does enforces codes. But this is a coordinate the fire inspection and code enforcement. What the hell does that mean?
Where are you, April?
I'm just going down the next bullet.
Bullets 3.
You're
and
looking at which job description? The
Oh, I'm looking at the deputy one, under examples of essential duties and responsibilities. So we had performs administrative task as assigned by the chief, or if chief is unable, by the select board. And then it's coordinates fire prevention, and then it's coordinate fire inspection and code enforcement.
See, the sentence changes that we were talking about are under position summary, not examples of essential duties.
Oh, sorry about that.
Right, George?
I'm sorry. I was looking at my minutes. I'm trying to write something. What was that again?
April was thinking the performs administrative task line was under essential duties and responsibilities.
Yes,
But that's really under the position summary, isn't it?
It's-
But
well,
we
it's
were editing
both.
Responsible. No, because if you're looking at deputy chief, under position summary, it says responsible for administrative duties as assigned by chief is the first sentence.
okay. And then that's said again under examples of essential duties and responsibilities.
That's the
I-
first bullet,
Right.
right?
Third, but anyway.
So are we saying that we don't need the first
Yeah,
access chief and absence chief? The first two sentences in position summary are the same as the first two bullet items,
yeah.
just not in the same order. So can we just
don't-
change the wording that we discussed in those first two sentences of position summary and just drop these bullets?
Yeah.
So who's got the wording that we came up with?
I tried to write it down.
Excellent. I'll go with what you have.
Okay.
So then
So this is where I said we should have the chief look at all these and say, is this right? Add or subtract things. The only thing I think I'd really like to do in this section at this point is see if we can come up with wording where we can eliminate a bunch of these and have them covered in a single bullet, because we see a lot of things that are kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, the position summary is then described in examples of essential duties and responsibilities. A good chunk of that.
Yeah, good point. Performs firefighting duties, including the combating and extinguishing fires, saving lives and property. That's all those bullet items we talked about.
Yeah, so why do we need those examples of essential duties and responsibilities? I know we have that section in other job descriptions, so we could take that and consolidate it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those bullet items are covered in these next 3 or 4 sentences of the position summary.
Right.
The coordinating fire prevention program is not, coordinates fire inspections and code enforcement is not. Response to fire alarms and drives fire apparatus, that's in the position summary.
Yeah, that's assumed. And then you get into minutia on the next page. Removes people from danger. Well,
Attack,
that's assumed, I would think.
yeah, plans attack, I think stays in, right? The very first one.
Again, this is a sort of thing in the chief's description that looked like it really belonged more in a handbook than in a job description.
Right.
You know, the handbook would say these are things, you know, but it really goes into extreme detail.
And is that, yeah, in extreme detail, is that necessary in a job description?
No, but in the handbook it is.
Supposed to avoid it in the job descriptions because they're supposed to be able to, you know, relate to the overall function of the job, not as
Right.
much to the, you know, the current trends in how you perform it.
The way I see this section is anything that's not covered in the broad description of the position summary should remain, and those that fit in the broad description, such as, removing persons from danger, should be removed from this section.
And another way to go, George, if you look at the activities / operations in the new fire chief's job description,
Mhm.
many of those items we could put under essential duties and responsibilities. I mean, we'd probably not put in develops procedures, assigns personnel, or confers with town officials, but you'd want to put in firefighting duties, responds to alarms, enforces fire codes, performs plan reviews for building permit. No, that one's out. And even here, it's enforce fire codes and then inspections are listed a couple of times.
Yeah, it coordinates fire inspections and code enforcement.
Participates in training, exercise, and classes to enhance job-related skills and abilities, including changes to laws, regulations. But he's supposed to lead, the chief is supposed to lead the training exercise. Not just, I guess you would say lead and participate, but because it's his job to organize them, isn't it?
Well, I think this is where the chief has to decide. I'm going back to what I said earlier.
Okay.
Yeah,
take-
let the chief decide what items should be listed under, the second section of the deputy position.
Okay. So
That's my opinion.
we can give him a copy of the latest fire chief description to look at too, right?
And then give him the deputy position with the changes that we've made so far, the ones that we've agreed on. In the position summary, the first two sentences, we modified both of those.
Yeah.
Or at least the first sentence we did. And then the salary range, I think you
Second.
adjusted.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully I can find the digital version of this and electronic version. And I can make those changes and then I can give them copies of both and see what happens.
That sounds good.
You good with that, Peg?
I am. I'm trying to find, where was salary range? Did you say there was
It's at the very top of page 1.
okay. I keep looking down. All right, okay,
Well,
good.
that's the one we skipped right from the start, so.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
No, I was just moving on down because I was, flipping pages back and forth. Okay, no, that sounds good to me.
Okay. That's a plan.
All right.
We got lots of plans.
I know. There's a lot to
This
this.
isn't easy.
No,
No,
it's not.
no. And no. We're trying to make good changes.
Yes, and we're trying to be consistent. Yeah, it is not easy. People do this for a full-time living.
I know.
Oh. Oh my, oh my, oh my.
But yeah,
Okay,
anyway,
so where are we on this now, on our agenda?
We're done.
I
Are
think
we
so.
cooked? I
Yeah,
think
all
we're
right.
cooked.
Before we break then as the secretary, I just want to ask, so for future business, I have personnel handbook policies, review and updates, classification schedules and
We're
policy.
still working
procedure.
on it. Yep.
Okay. And then the only other
Oh,
thing I would ask is,
we did put in some time on that one.
Yeah,
Classic.
we got more time scheduled.
Great.
so
It's-
the only
we
other
have a good
question I
time.
would have then is what should we, when are our next meetings, Peg?
I think January 19th it's the third. I think January 19th is the third, and I go into February. But I will.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, as far out as you want, really.
Yeah. January 19th, hold on. February.
Um, 16,
February
16, I think.
1, 2, 3, the 16th, the 19th of January, the 16th of February.
And I'll put down the 16th of March.
Okay, but I'm gonna be gone, but you guys can go ahead, forge ahead.
Oh, well,
We
if you
will.
want, no, make it this one. How about the week?
Let's pick another date.
Yeah, the 9th of the 23rd.
I'll be gone.
This
The whole
sounds
month
like
of March?
The 30th, I'll be gone. And we're hoping, we had our 50th anniversary in 2020.
Oh, my
Go
goodness.
to Belize. We enjoy birding. And this will be our 53rd anniversary, and we haven't gotten to Belize yet because of COVID. So we're trying again. So we're just going to be gone in half of March because we just decided we're going to try again. It
Yeah,
might
let's hope COVID doesn't take off again.
Yeah,
It's
well,
not.
and, you know, Belize closed down one year, one of the years Belize closed down. I mean, you couldn't go there.
Yeah.
And the other years COVID was, so we'll find out. So anyway, you guys should, it would be either the 16th, the 23rd, or the 30th. We come back the 30th. So
okay, yeah.
I wouldn't be any good.
We'll leave it at the 16th, and we got 2 more meetings to talk about this.
All right.
Exactly.
You'll have your plans finalized, and then we'll know.
That's right. That's right. And
Okay.
yes,
We'll know. We'll know. Yeah, we should know by then if we can, how we're doing.
I apologize. What was the January and February dates?
The January date is the 19th. The February date is the 16th. The March date is the 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
It'll be in the minutes too when you get the minutes.
Thank you, George.
okay.
You're welcome.
And they may have internet in Belize, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
you don't bring your computer?
one of us will take one. Yeah, I'll take my computer. We'll see how we do.
If you're
No.
there for a whole month, you might want to actually do something like work.
No, 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 no. You deserve it.
Okay,
Yes, you
well,
do.
well, thank you. We've
Yeah.
been trying. It's been, it could be, there are a lot of other things that people, I'm just glad we've stayed healthy pretty much. So, but it's, COVID is rearing its ugly head again.
I
Yeah, it
know.
is. And, I went up until November 3rd. I got COVID. First time during this whole pandemic.
When
Wow.
did you get back?
I caught it in Nepal. Yeah, I caught it in Nepal. When I got home and I tested, I had it. So, and it went away not long after. So I probably caught it in the last week of my trip.
I had it, we went to Colorado to see our newborn grandchild and got back the first week of October. 2 days after we got back, I tested because I suddenly had symptoms and I was positive. When they had those little strips,
Yes.
it just the COVID strip was right away. There was no question.
Oh, sorry.
Well, my point is, we've all
I
been
haven't-
avoiding it, but you can only
Yeah.
go so long.
I haven't had it yet. I don't know how I haven't had it yet.
Well, good
Somebody
for
said
you.
if you have O negative blood, you're less likely to get it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I
I wonder
think-
how true that is. I've heard a lot of theories.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Mike never got it. I mean, Mike was on the same plane I was on, and nobody in Colorado was sick. You know, our son's out there, our daughter's out there, the grandkids are out there. They were all fine.
It's,
And I
Well,
got
plus,
it. I must have
There's
gotten
a
it.
lot of people who get it, and they're asymptomatic and they don't know they have it.
No, I knew I had it.
I didn't know I have it, but I had other symptoms that I thought I got elsewhere, so maybe.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
anyway,
we're healthy now.
yes, we are.
God
Stay that
willing.
way.
So I'm going to
Yes.
wish happy holidays to everybody.
Yes, back at
Happy
you.
holiday.
Yes.
Happy
Oy.
holidays, Peg, and everybody.
And
Everybody.
I think then we should adjourn this meeting.
I think so, because I have no more brain cell.
Yes, I've used up all mine.
I'm done. The
Okay.
daily limit.
Thank you,
Okay.
George. George, thank you again for doing the minutes. Much
Oh, you're
appreciated.
welcome. No problem at all. Happy to help.
Okay. So
All right.
all those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Oy.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Okay, good
See ya.
night.
Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Becky.
I have